Hello everyone, welcome to GS Core. And as part of today's special report, we are going to discuss Global EV Outlook 2021. My name is Abhishiekh Saxena and I am a faculty at GS Core. So, as we say EV, that is electric vehicles, we think about a lot of things: charging stations, how those electric vehicles will come to rule our roads in future, what are the contemporary developments. A name which comes is Tesla, Elon Musk, so on and so forth. But apart from the general discourse on EVs, there are a lot of nitty-gritties which one should be aware about. And a document which gives a lot of insights into the electronic vehicle ecosystem is this Global EV Outlook. As we all are aware, climate related concerns, progression in technology, and a lot of other factors have contributed to the idea of batteries or electric energy powering the vehicles, replacing or complementing the conventional mechanized piston engine form of based mobility, right? So EVs are in vogue, are in discussion, and hence it is important for us to discuss electronic vehicles because a lot of churning of late, especially in the past 2-3 years, is being going on with regards to electronic vehicles in India as well. So it is important for us to understand the EV ecosystem. When some states are bringing up policies, new startups, existing companies venturing into the electronic vehicle domain, right? A lot is happening and we need to keep everything in mind so that we can comprehensively analyze the EV sector. So starting off with this report is the flagship annual publication of Electric Vehicles Initiative. It is an agency which basically tracks the worldwide status of electric mobility. Obviously, we have trains running on electricity, so on and so forth. But largely, when we are talking about electric mobility, we are talking about normal passenger segment and somewhat freight segment, which are largely driven on roads. Though electronic propulsion as a concept is quite dated, trains of course being the initial vehicles which were driven by electricity. Then there is an electronic propulsion which is being talked about, ships as well. But while talking about EVs, we would largely for now limit our disclose to the personal mobility segment or a little bit of freight mobility segment, which is largely plies on roads. Okay, so after establishing the importance of EV, let us look at some of the granular details. What does this Global EV Outlook report does? It presents an annual picture. When I say annual picture, it identifies and discusses recent developments in the electronic mobility sector. Okay, at the same time, it gives you analysis with projections up to 2030. Analysis on, let us say, related and allied aspects of electronic mobility. Charging infrastructure, okay, energy use, battery demand, CO2 emissions. Charging infrastructure, energy use, battery demand, okay, and things like CO2 emissions. So mind you, while we talk about charging infrastructure and so on and so forth, largely we should look at sustainable energy resources, because there is no point if you are, let us say, charging your electronic vehicle using a generator or a source which is powered by a fossil fuel. So in the larger climatic interest, we should look for more sustainable means of energy sources. Okay, and this report gives you all of that. Just to sample, have a look at this graphic. This graphic tells you about the plug-in aspects and battery electric vehicles aspect. So while there are plug-in vehicles, hybrid, which in a way give us some sort of efficiency or edge over just the conventional powered vehicles, they are not entirely sustainable, but yes, better than the prevailing ones. If we can convert all the vehicles, let us say, to a hybrid form, we would still be able to contribute in sizable numbers to the climate change effort or to the fight against climate change. So this is a sample from this report itself, wherein it is tracking the growth in the segment. So you'll see that in the last 9 or 10 years, there has been a paradigm shift happening in the EV space. And if you look at last years, you will find that there is almost 100% jump, right? So it is an encouraging sign. At the same time, we will have to remember the parallel developments which are happening vis-a-vis globe and India. So you had an Ola Electric coming up in two-wheeler space. So while in India the personal mobility section is largely dominated by two-wheelers, when it comes to the electronic vehicles, four-wheelers are coming up, but not as at a pace as fast as two-wheelers. While globally, companies like Tesla and other companies which are venturing into the EV space are far more aggressively pitching in, with their offerings. So this is one sort of an analysis wherein it is tracking the vehicle sales, how EVs are gaining increasing acceptability. Okay. This particular outlook also gives us certain tools. Tools for researchers, for academicians, for governments. These tools are premised upon the data collected through various sources, and it will aid decision makers in making better decisions. The first one is the Global EV Data Explorer. The Global EV Data Explorer. So basically it allows the user, that user can be a government, a researcher, an individual, okay, to explore statistics and projections. Projections means here some sort of extrapolations based on the global EV data. It is an interactive tool. Okay. At the same time, this tool also maps various enabling factors which contribute to the EV ecosystem. For example, legislation in respective countries, targets by companies, countries, nations, states alike, ambitions and proposals. In a way, giving a very comprehensive picture to decision makers or to the user about the EV ecosystem for a geography. Okay. whether there are any legally binding commitments or not, voluntary provisions, stops offered to boost e-mobility segment, so on and so forth, right? So in that sense. Okay, so while Data Explorer will give you statistics and projections, this Policy Explorer will give you the enabling environment or the info about the enabling environment and allied efforts being made out by various countries and states. Okay, when I say states, I mean the state in its global sense, not states of India. Though with regards to a country, there might be certain states or efforts of certain states within a territory which might have been highlighted. For example, Delhi, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, these are the forerunners, when it comes to electronic mobility as such, because they are offering SOPs, tax breaks for people who are buying electric vehicles. Okay, now let us look at the trends which are being pointed out by the EV outlook. So new EV registrations. So you can see that here China and Europe are in a way taking the gigantic share. And yes, US is also amongst the top 3. And that is somewhat which is being observed through this particular graphic. Also, you will find that globally, just the way I showed you with the previous graphic in bar graph, that in last 10 years, there has been exponential rise in the electronic vehicle adoption. At the same time, China here and Europe here is leading the way. So while the general automobile sector in Europe has contracted by around 22% in 2020, yet new electric car registrations more than doubled. So you can imagine, while the net car sales are down in Europe by 22%, but the EV segments are jumping up even within the reduced share. Okay. Electric cars in Norway, for example, have reached a record high where newer sales account for, with regards to EV, 75%. Okay. China, while yes, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the electronic vehicle sales globally and more so in China, there has been green shoots with regards to the EV sales. Overall, we have seen a trend wherein the sales share is up by 0.9%. Okay. So similar is the case with Europe and other countries. So you will find that report mentions about prominent countries like Canada, New Zealand, Japan, where such countries are increasingly adopting EVs, and that can be observed via this particular graphic. And this graphic in a way gives you a direction, a projection that where we are heading in terms of the both in terms of sales and numbers and the ecosystem wherein the policy environment for electronic vehicles is being set up. So as it says that more than 20 countries have electrification targets or bans of cars with internal combustion engines, and 8 countries plus the European Union have announced net zero pledges. So while yes, from the science and technology point of view, we need to look at the various technologies, lithium ion and so on and so forth, with regards to the batteries, or from the larger general studies point of view, we need to look at problems or issues or green shoots. We need to closely link everything with the larger gamut of fight against climate change and sustainable development, wherein as it is written that so many countries have pledged. So this is in a way a timeline where net zero emission pledges have been made by various countries. So 100% electrified sales, 100% ZEV sales, net zero pledges, everything is color coded here. So while these countries have given net zero pledges, you have these countries in yellow showing you ZEVs sales. At the same time, 100% electrified sales by countries like China, Japan and United Kingdom. Okay, so this graphics give you a comprehensive picture of what is happening in the EV space globally. That is something which is the intention of this particular report as well. Now let us look at certain issues and challenges. And mind you, these issues and challenges will remain same in some sort of a modified form for India as well, along with the increasing complexity which India, being a kaleidoscopic country, has to offer. Those challenges, some of these factors might aggravate a particular challenge listed out here or an issue listed out here, and some sort of factors relating to India might decrease the impact of such challenges. For example, technology, competition, scale, market. While globally it might be far more challenging because of less population, yes, less young population, less industry, less manpower in India. Those are our assets because we have plenty of youth, we have plenty of startups coming up. We are in a way a technologically, or we are increasingly getting transformed into a technologically driven nation, right? So one of the premier issues is recharge points. While the personal mobility landscape is largely driven by petrol pumps or gas stations, as they call in US, right? Where will all these vehicles get charged? And with regards to charging, there are various models. There is a battery swap model and a battery swap policy, and a battery related policy is being touted in the budget 2022 as well. Then there are rapid charging models, problems related to standardization. So just like a mobile phone, you have USB charger, C-type charger, iPhone charger, so many different kinds of charger. What will be the standards, okay, for these vehicles, right? The practical challenges for long vehicles, or people who have to ply on long hauls, right? So battery life, so on and so forth. Initial investment. So it is a capital intensive activity just because the technology is new and it needs space. Vehicles need space to get parked and charged. It is a capital intensive activity. Okay. Then electricity isn't free. I gave a hint that charging your car by using a generator or using a source burning fossil fuel. So while electricity isn't free, obviously they will come at a cost. But does the cost justify the returns? For example, you incur 100 rupees on charging your vehicle which runs 1 kilometer. Is the cost justified? Though it is green, but is the cost justified, viable, right? So a viability factor is again very, very important. Then longer charging time. Most of the electric vehicles which we have today take hours to charge, while at a gas station or a fuel pump you can get refueled in a matter of minutes. So doesn't that hamper the real-time practical usage of electric vehicles? Okay. Then battery replacement. While on an average the car battery is good enough for 3 to 10 years, but using battery as the primary source of power to power the engine for mobility Do we have that much efficient batteries, and the ones which we have, are they cost effective? The answer is no, especially for a country like India. Then lower amount of choices. Still, if you will see, every major economy in the country has their auto giants, and most of them are global in nature. There are local partnerships, ecosystem, service ecosystem, everything is built and tested on certain models and is a well-oiled machinery. But what about choices in EV space? First, we are restricted with choices. Then, the ones which we have, spares, maintenance, overhauling, all those issues remain. Okay. Nonetheless, it is hard to deny that EV is the future, and all these issues will have to be bridged to make EV ecosystem a success quickly. It is not a question of if, it is a question of when. So as soon as that when arrives, the better for the environment and the mobility. Now let us look at the significance of the EV space, or this particular report. So this report basically compares or benchmarks its data on AFID targets, that is Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Directive. It is a European Union standard which it uses to base all the findings. Okay. At the same time, the report also analyzes the fuel taxation and its impact, or the impact of EV uptake on government's revenue from fuel taxation. Obviously, right now, if you'll see that government taxes heavily the petrochemical products, especially the primary fuels, petrol and diesel, and if we can say CNG. But if this share of EV is going to acquire a dominant position in the vehicle basket of any country or territory, where will that taxation go? How a tax structure will evolve? Okay. At the same time, the report looks at, or the outlook looks at, the various vehicle manufacturer and policy makers, how they are boosting their electronic vehicle portfolio. Next, the technologies, for example, just the way I told you, hybrid, full charge, etc. What is happening in the technology landscape? Okay. At the same time, there are certain advantages which electronic vehicles offers. For example, more efficiency, because it is an understood fact, an empirical fact, that EVs in terms of energy utilization are far more efficient vis-a-vis the internal combustion engines, because in internal combustion engines a lot of energy gets lost due to noises like heating, friction, etc. Okay. At the same time, they do not emit any smoke. Okay. Then EVs are driving advances in battery technology. So while battery is an entity which is almost more than 100, not almost, more than 100 years old, but the latest cycle of innovation in the battery space is being triggered by EV, because there is a demand which is being exerted by the EV segment to innovate in the battery segment. So while at times it was thought that lithium ion battery is the pinnacle of this evolution for times to come, it is being slowly replaced by other models, fuel cell and so on and so forth. Okay. Then EV fleets are expanding. So that is again very significant, in the sense that you will recall that even Government of India purchased a lot of Tata electric vehicles for their official fleet. Charging infrastructure is expanding. So slowly and slowly every stakeholder is coming on board with regards to the EV. So recently in NCR, that is National Capital Region, Delhi, country's largest charging port was opened for electric vehicles near Gurgaon. Okay, then obviously it is more convenient. It's just like plug and play. The only hazard is that it takes a lot of time and occupies a lot of space. So that is something which we need to take care of. Otherwise, it is very, very convenient. At the same time, you have car models, scooter models which are coming up, in which you can simply charge with a 3-pin adapter. Okay, it leads to savings. Okay, it is popular, safe to drive. Why safe to drive? Why safe to drive? I mean, it's a car, right? It should be as safe as other cars. The answer lies in science, in the sense that while internal combustion engines are quite heavy entities, and they need to be the fulcrum of a car to balance its weights and center of gravity, electronic vehicles are far more lighter. So hence they can be more protective, at the same time can be fuel efficient, and hence safer, because they in a way have a far more better balance of center of gravity, and reduced noise pollution, because ultimately there is a mechanism of internal combustion engines to work, right? They work in a piston shaft, and there is this lever which operates. So they are noisy, so that is why you have to oil them, right? But electric vehicles are just like your electric fans. I mean, obviously they are evolved, far more evolved, but they are far more less noisy. Okay, so that is something which is very, very significant. So they contribute to the reduction of noise pollution as well. Now let us look at the EV landscape in India. So while the data is a bit old, but it gives you a picture. So again, Europe leading the way, China following the suit, and India is taking baby steps, but those baby steps are significant, and I'm sure soon there will be a leap. Okay, so this graphic shows you those details about EV in India. Then let us delve into the India aspect more. So you had various initiatives which were undertaken by the government of India with regards to EV. That is National Electric Mobility Mission Plan 2020. National Electric Mobility Mission Plan 2020. Okay. Then there was a FAME scheme, that is faster adoption and manufacturing, of hybrid and electric vehicles. Okay. Then there was a Go Electric campaign. Launched by the Minister of Road Transport and Highways in early 2021. Okay. You had Delhi government offering SOPs for people who will buy electric vehicles. At the same time, in Tamil Nadu, you had launch of electric auto rickshaws. Okay, Karnataka is amongst the first or amongst the front runners, because you will find that Karnataka launched electric vehicles and energy storage policy 2017. Electric vehicles and energy storage policy way back in 2017. Okay. At the same time, the government of Maharashtra is offering tax soaps to the order of 15% for first 1 lakh EVs to be registered in the state. Okay. So these are some of the developments which are happening in India. Okay. Now, one major issue with all this is that, okay, we have made the vehicle, we have offered stops, etc. But a primary concern remain, that is charging. So while there is AC charging and DC charging, two models here, okay, and a standard Bharat EV charging standard, Bharat EV charging standard with a label code AC001 is there. Similar is the case of DC standard, that is DC001. Okay. Then Bureau of Indian Standards, that is BIS, is also working on general requirement and safety norms for EVs, that is IS:17017 standard. Okay. At the same time, there is a central management system. The open charge point protocol is being developed. Open charge point protocol is being developed. So slowly India is jumping onto this brand wagon, and we are accelerating in the EV space. Okay, developing the ecosystem and the requisite framework. Just like I said, that budget 2022 mentioned about a battery policy. So we are gradually coming up in the electronic vehicle segment, and I'm sure with the resilience and with the innovation that India has to offer, will surely be amongst the people sitting on the high table with regards to the electric mobility. Okay. Challenges are more or less the same, only Indian variations. For example, India offers a diversity of landscape. So while you can establish a charging station at in NCR quite easily, it will not be as easy to establish that charging station in Ladakh or remote areas of Northeast or island territories, right? So all those things are there. So just the Indian color to the challenges, and I'm sure you'll be able to add Indian color to the solutions as well. Okay, so that's it for the global EV outlook 2021 from my side. Thank you.